Okay, so insight number 10, and then we'll get to my favorite, number 11, which I'm saving for last. Number 10 is assemble a great team. You do not have to do everything yourself. You probably shouldn't do everything yourself. You can, in this era, do everything yourself. But what makes Rick Rubin's production so good is he does not try to produce it and engineer it and mix it and master it. Rather, he curates great teams and tries to get the best personalized individual performances out of each of those people. And he almost plays psychologist, therapist to each of those people to allow them to go further than they otherwise might go. And he encourages them to try things they wouldn't otherwise try, to try things that they might otherwise be too timid to try. And some people will blame Rick Rubin in part for the loudness wars. Man, some of those records are too loud. Californication. I hear clipping on Anthony Kiedith's vocals. This must be a bad album. It's like, well, apparently millions of people disagree with you. And if you were to hear a Red Hot Chili Peppers song today on the radio, chances are it's going to be one of the songs that Rick Rubin produced, regardless of how overcooked they are in loudness. Some of my favorite stuff that Rick Rubin's worked on, his Johnny Cash American recordings, those sounded like Johnny Cash recordings shouldn't. There's so much limiting on them. They sound like they're quivering and about to explode. But that's part of what made those records so incredibly interesting. It was a different lens to hear Johnny Cash through. And chances are that some of these producers and engineers he worked with might not have pushed things as hard if it wasn't for him bringing that out of him. I've read different forum threads and listened to different takes on this where some people say, oh, Rick Rubin, you can't blame him for the loudness wars because it was the mastering engineer doing that and the mixing engineer doing that. It's like, Rick Rubin is driving people to do things more, harder, better, bigger, with more personality. And one of his big things here is he talks about making art that alienates people. And he is not afraid of making records that not everyone is going to like. And in fact, one of his other great quotes here was, if you come up with an idea or a song and everyone likes it, chances are that you didn't push it as far as it could go. And this is something you can think about in your mixes and your masters and your recordings. If you make something that is to everyone's taste, or everyone thinks it's okay, or everyone says, oh yeah, that's good, chances are it's because it's not resonating with any of them. And to get something to really resonate with a certain group of people extremely deeply, you're going to have to alienate another group of people. And if you want to go even deeper with a certain type of audience, you have to set things up so that the audience that's not the right audience for it is like, what's this about? I think Rick Rubin talks about that a little bit when he talks about making the early Beastie Boys records and doing early Def Jam records. It was very unusual that he would do interviews early in his career. But one of the few interviews I could find with him in his 20s, he said along the line of, with our records, we're trying to make records that are for teenagers, that are for American teenagers. And that's what's in his mind, creating these Beastie Boys records and, LL Cool J records and Slayer records. They're not supposed to be for everybody. And the further we go down that path of not being for everybody, the better. And this really is a segue into the 11th tip, my favorite, which is play your part. Hey, if you like that short clip, you might love the full-length podcast episode that it came from. Or you might love one of my full-length courses like Mixing Breakthroughs, Mastering Demystified, or Compression Breakthroughs. They will change the way you work forever, for the better, guaranteed, or your money back. Also, big thanks to Loudon Audio for sending me this new mic to try out, the LS208. Sounds absolutely great, and they are $50 off this month. I'll put a link in the description down below. See you next time.